for those that may not have heard about who Mary Anne is, tell us a little bit about your story.
I am a family member with many family members with disabilities. One day, I decided I was going to do something different and opened up my own financial doors and said, I am going to work with families like my own. Everybody said I would fail. Everybody said there's not enough people with disabilities, but the reality is there's 70 million people in this country with a disability. It's a 28% chance that somebody in your family is going to have a disability.
How do those conversations, did you just see the shoulders drop?
I have a woman who became in charge of her brother when her parents passed away. And she came into me and she said, I'm so mad at my parents. If you're going to give somebody the job of taking care of that person, you got to give them a financial person. You got to give them a care person. You got to give them know who the doctors are. You got to know who the programs for fun are. You got to know all that stuff.
I looked at your testimonials on your website. Quote, "This note is to let you know that my mom passed away. She was ready to leave us and she had no fear. While you worked for us and for Mom, you were so kind. I'm sending along our picture so you will always remember that you do help real people. Behind the voices on the phone are folks just like my mom and I who need your help and guidance. I want you to know that you make a difference in our lives."
It's really nice to get those letters like that, where you made a difference. That's why we're here.
Systems work. People fail. Welcome to InsureMark's Advisor Mentorship Podcast with Vice President Jeremy Hauser.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Advisor Mentorship Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Hauser, and wow, we are 100 episodes down. This is officially the next one going into the third numerals, 101, and I am very, very excited to bring on this particular partner of ours and guest to the show. It's the CEO and founder of Protected Tomorrows, Mary Anne Ehlert. How are we doing today?
I'm great. I'm excited to be number 101 as well.
I'm excited. Yeah. And timing couldn't have been better. You know, here we are coming into the week of Thanksgiving. There's a lot of good messaging out there in the financial services industry, which advisors participate in, but I think your group is substantial. And I love the fact that we get an opportunity to give you a chance to share a little bit more about your stories. So do you mind, for those that may not have heard about Protected Tomorrows or heard about who Mary Anne is here over the last couple of years, tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into the business.
I am a family member with many family members with disabilities. So after many years in the financial industry, I was doing mergers and acquisitions and corporate finance. And one day I decided I was going to do something different and opened up my own financial doors and said, I am going to work with families like my own. So what did that mean? Well, I grew up with a sister with a disability. At the age of 6, my parents pulled me aside. My sister was 2 at the time, and they got a diagnosis of cerebral palsy for her. And so they pulled me aside, and I had 2 older brothers and another sister besides the twins. And they said, we got word today that your sister has something called cerebral palsy. We don't know what it means, but we do know that it means when you get older, you're going to take care of her. And I was 6, and I thought that was the most exciting thing for me, because I was one of those kids who was kind of the boss, and I was always pushing my brothers around. So to get the job of being taking care of my sister forever sounded really good to me. I didn't know what it meant. As I got older, and I took her everywhere with me. I didn't matter what I was doing. My friends had to like her, and if they didn't like her, they weren't my friends. They had to accept her. As she got older, she was developmentally about age 8. She was also physically disabled, but she's the one who taught me everything I know about life. And as she got older, my job was to make sure she was safe, make sure she was challenged, and my parents' job was to make sure she was safe. Mine was a little different. Mine was make sure she had the same life I had, even to the point of when she was 21, taking her out and making sure she got drunk so that she knew what that was like. And my parents like, oh my gosh, what are you thinking? Every time after that, every time she introduced me to some friends, she'd put her arm around me and say, this is my sister. We got drunk together when I was 21. I tell that story because it's what she wanted. She wanted to be normal. She wanted to have all the challenges, even though she had a hangover, and we had to, get her out of my apartment and get her down the stairs. And when she's in a wheelchair, she kept telling me over and over that she wanted to be independent. So she lived at home with my parents until she was 34. I convinced my parents to let her move out into a group home, and they did. But my dad went from black hair to gray hair overnight. My mother cried for weeks. And so as a sibling, I didn't quite get all of that. I wanted her to be independent, but they wanted to keep her safe. So she did well. She did great. She lived at this facility for 9 years. And then on March 4th, 1995, she had a seizure in her sleep. She couldn't turn over and she suffocated. And so that was another turning point in my life. So we always have these things that are like, oh my gosh, this is when I made decisions to do things. I'd already had started my financial practice, and she was in my life at the time. And when this occurred, I was ready to quit. I was ready to say, I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. And all my mentors would say, you talk about her all the time. Let this be what you do with your life. And it is, it's all in memory of her. And sometimes when you have a calling, the calling keeps calling you. And I learned over time that experience with her gave me my momentum. Everybody said I would fail. Everybody said there's not enough people with disabilities in this country. If they do have them, they're poor. They're not going to be able to be a good investment client. They're not going to be a good planning client. But the reality is there's 70 million people in this country with a disability.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers proved that I was going to be busy. I didn't know. I knew that I was going to help everybody that I could touch. And I didn't care if they had money or not. I was just going to help them. That was my mission when I started. It still is. But I didn't know that I was going to keep learning the way I learned. So as I got more into the practice, I also had married someone with 3 little boys, and they had been abused by their bio mom. So I was in charge of that family for a period of time until my ex walked away, not my ex, and he left me with those boys to be responsible for them.
Wow.
So now, not only did I know about developmental disabilities, but I got the lessons in what mental illness is all about, because I became a mom of those 3 boys. They're doing well as they're grown up. They're now in their 40s, 35 and 40. The oldest has a great job. He succeeded to get past some of those issues he had. The middle boy at the age of 21 struggled. He shot himself. He's alive. He's blind. He is doing great. And actually, he goes into schools and talks to families and to other students about, don't do what I did, get help. Then my youngest is still struggling significantly. And sometimes I don't know where he is. Sometimes I do. But mental illness is very different than a developmental disability. With developmental disabilities, we know what we got. We know what we're going to have to do. Mental illness is this up and down. So I've had these lessons constantly in my lifetime about the different kinds of disabilities, which is why I try to help people. The word disability doesn't mean a lot. It's the person itself and what can they do, what can they not do. Later, I became a caregiver for my parents as well. And so now I know aging disabilities. So it's been a journey, but I love what I do. And my mission out of all that life experience taught me, wow, there's a lot to know. I'm never going to know it all. And things keep changing. So if we can be with one family at a time and help figure out, what do they want? What's a family want? They want their family member to be safe and happy. It's real easy.
Selling the Ibexus FIA Plus and Wealth Defender FIAs just got even easier. They have increased street comp by 1% for clients aged 71 and up, putting more in your pocket while helping retirees grow and protect their wealth. Plus, Ibexus has raised participation rates so you can offer even more value and upside potential. It's a win-win for your clients and your business. For more information, go to www.insuremarkamp.com/jhauser and click on Learn More. Don't miss this opportunity to boost your earnings and deliver stronger solutions. Wow. I didn't actually know all that.
Mm,
So you've been through a whole lot. So you landed so you were in the financial services industry already.
mhm,
You decided the calling was kept calling, as you said, and decided to pivot more so towards where you thought there was going to be a bigger need, which obviously you found was. So, how did you land on the name Protected Tomorrows, and what's the story with Protected Tomorrows?
So I started the business as Ehlert Financial Group. I was a financial planning company, but I really wanted to express what families were looking for. So I actually hired because I'm really good at doing what I need to do. I'm the least creative person. Never asked me to decorate your house, never asked me to come up with the name of a company. So I hired a firm to help me think about what represents what we do. And back in 2003, we changed our name to Protected Tomorrows. It's now been around for a long time. We want to keep that name so that people recognize it. And that's what people tell us. I want to make sure that this family member of mine is okay for the rest of their life. And if I'm the parent, everything I do revolves around that person, right? So if I'm working, my working days revolve around taking care of them. As I get older, my retirement has to incorporate them. And when I pass away, I have to have another retirement past me. I call it retiring for three. So if I have a couple, they got to think about funding all three time periods, my work years, my retirement years, and somebody else's retirement after me. And so it really is about protecting our own tomorrows as well as our family members.
So it amazes me. I didn't until you articulated earlier the three different phrases that you've go through, and I know many families for the most part. You're actually I was kind of surprised when I looked into this a little bit more. You shared a statistic with me. How many actual people? So you said right here, 70 million people with disabilities or within this country.
In the US,
What's a percentage?
28% of the people in this country are disabled.
So that's people that what's the how often is it that somebody is in their own family that has one of these disabilities, or is it just they know somebody?
I mean, it's people, it could be a person with a child, it could be a sibling, it could be your parent. Any disability counts in that 70 million,
Hmm.
right? So it's a 28% chance that somebody in your family is going to have a disability. The interesting thing is, when I talk to advisors about thinking about this, many of them will say, "Oh, well, I don't know anybody." And I said, or I have nobody in my family. So my question is, oh, so if I look up, down, and around your whole world, there's nobody you know who has a disability? They'll stop and they'll think about it. Up is our parents or grandparents, down is our children or grandchildren, and around is our friends and everybody else that is in our world, right? It's I I don't see a hand that doesn't go up when I ask that question. If I'm in a room, I say, does anybody have a family member who's emotionally or financially dependent upon you? Everybody knows somebody.
When exactly? So 2003, you did the name change, and then so when did you go into practice of that is the demographic that you're going to serve?
I started in 1989. So in 1989, I started a financial company knowing that that's all I was going to do. Now, I say that, but yet if I work with a family who has a disability, they are A, thankful, and B, know that we listen really well. And so we end up getting other referrals from them for financial planning work. And usually we get the whole family because part of what we do is when we're working with a parent, and their children, we end up getting involved with the grandparents,
Hmm.
right? And because the grandparents could goof it up. We could do all this planning and do it right, and then the grandparents leave an inheritance for that child, and they goof up everything we've done. Because a child with a disability can't have assets in order to get all the services they need. So grandma thinks she's doing a good thing and leaving the child $50,000, and that child could lose $100,000 of funding because they inherited $50,000. So we have part of our process is having a family meeting for lots of reasons, right?
Sure.
So when you do financial planning, typically, or give financial advice, sometimes you get involved in the whole family. We always get involved in the whole family. We want to meet all the people who are going to have to step in. So if I have children and I'm planning for their college and I'm planning for their future, at some point they're going to be on their own.
Hmm.
For my sister, my parents had to put me in the documents because I was going to be stepping up to become her guardian and her caregiver, right? And those people, I have clients now who are 80 and 90, and they had done their legal documents and they had put the other kids in to take responsibilities when they pass away. It's normal. People do that.
Hmm.
The other kids really don't know what the parents know. The parents have done the job. And all of a sudden the parents pass away, and the brother, we have a client recently who the parents passed away. The brother became responsible for his sister. He kind of knew he was going to get his job. He just didn't know how big that job was. So we step in and we became his partner in crime. How do you got all these accounts, you got all these financial accounts you got to deal with, Social Security rep payee accounts, you got ABLE accounts, you got special needs trusts. He's,
Hmm.
what do I pay from what? And he was a major player in a financial company. And he goes, this is not for the meek and mild taking on this job. Changes your life.
And I assume, I mean, it just like blows my mind to think the mental load these family members when they come to your team. I mean, so for one, for you, kudos to you. And I know a lot of advisors would run from those type of conversations. So you hit them head on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like where moving forward, I mean, for those that how do those conversations like do you just see the shoulders drop when they talk to you and know that there's a home, or can you talk a little bit about that client experience and
Sure.
yeah, personal experience for you?
So it's interesting when we first meet with people, they're usually coming in confused. They have no idea where to start. So why would they? Sometimes I think, wow, I've been doing this for like 35 years. Why don't people know that what they're supposed to do? Well, why would they know? Right? You have living a life and all of a sudden you have a child born with Down syndrome, or your parent becomes disabled, or your sibling becomes disabled. So why would you know what you're supposed to do? Why would you know that they're not supposed to have money? How would you know how the government works?
Sure.
How would you know where to find the doctor? All that, right? So they come to us. There's so much stuff. We know the internet isn't useful, but sometimes you feel like you're being sold snake oil. And when you go to these conferences, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be doing that. And this medicine works. No, it doesn't work. And so they're looking for someone to hold their hand. And when they come and they talk to us, it's interesting because you can see they're coming to plan for their child. And what I say to them is my job is you're a really important parent. You're it. You're going to be an advocate forever. But most of the time, they forget about themselves. I watched my parents do that. My parents, when I started doing this and talking to them, they did no planning for themselves. They never went on a vacation, never went to a restaurant because it's too overwhelming. So when you say to somebody, you know what, we're going to plan for your child, but first we're going to take care of you. That's when you see the shoulders come down because no one's ever said they're going to take care of them. And so they are important. So if a client says to me, we're going to leave everything we have to a trust for our child, 100% of nothing is nothing. And so we convince them, you got to be okay for the rest of your life. You got to make sure that you get a life, that you get a vacation, that you can actually retire, that there'll be people there to take care of your child when you retire. And that's a whole life change for them. So what do we bring to the table besides the financial work? We have something we call Parent University, where we will give tools and advice in general and ideas to families every month. So we had a class this year about how do you take a vacation if you have a child with a disability? And we had a speaker from a cruise line who takes people with a child with autism on vacation, and someone is assigned to their child for the whole trip, and the parents can have fun too. Or Morgan's Wonderland, which is a amusement park for people with disabilities in San Antonio. People why would they know about this, right? So not only can we help them financially be okay, we help give them a life, as a parent.
Help your clients renovate, reinforce, and take pride in their financial home. North American has some exciting news. They just launched a powerful new resource designed to help make client conversations easier, more engaging, and more impactful. Discover the blueprint for organizing, protecting, and upgrading your financial life so you can build a lasting legacy and approach retirement with confidence. It's called the North American Financial Home Makeover Campaign. It includes a magazine, a microsite, and an online client prospect assessment. Pretty cool. These resources will help you spot retirement gaps and opportunities, build more long-lasting trust, and start retirement conversations that really matter with prospects and clients. To access this amazing resource, reach out to our team or go to www.insuremarkamp.com/jhauser and click on Learn More. I mean, that's a great idea. And so obviously with your experience, I mean, just the thought of the burden of being able to not just, I mean, the day to day, if they're able to enjoy their trips together. So you're saying you have groups and networking, other people that you've met in your 2+ decades that just can come in. You have a team that can offer certain things that they just can't. I mean, you can't just find these people on Google, I assume.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had somebody in a wheelchair and you're going to go on a trip, you have no idea if the hotel you booked, that wheelchair works,
Hmm.
or might not fit in that hotel room. So the company will go in and check it ahead of time for you. People are like, oh my gosh. So because we're in that space, we're always looking for ideas, and yes, the parents have to be okay financially. The child has to have special legal work, and finding the right attorney to do that is different, right? Finding the attorney who's going to, and they feel at risk because sometimes they can't understand what the attorney is saying. So we interpret that and help them make those decisions. But then it's beyond that. It's like their whole life. We have to educate the parent. We have to educate the grandparent. Sometimes the grandparents are the ones who hear about us. I was just on a trip and talking to some people at the dinner table, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a couple, and they said, oh my gosh, we have 2 children with autism, grandchildren with autism. They're like, oh my God, my daughter would love to hear about this because she never goes anywhere. And so we're always trying to better our families' lives. And our goal is the whole family. We want to keep them whole, and we want to have everybody to have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so not always possible, but I mean, there's many levels of disabilities. And so just our team isn't just financial people. We have financial people and social workers working together.
And so out of all the people you currently see and still see and new people that are referred over, like what's the percentage? How many actually can your team usually help in some form?
Our goal is to help them all in some way. So some percentage of them we know can't afford us, which is why we created the Parent University, because on that class, they can learn
Uh,
how to do things themselves. Our website has tools on it. So how do you apply for SSI? There's a tutorial. How do you do that? So all the things that we have to do hands-on, we have created tools on our website so that families can learn to do it themselves, because we don't want to leave people behind.
Sure.
You know, we actually get a referral from a reporter who does a lot of reporting on Social Security, and every once in a while she'll call my team. She says, "I got this case. It's really difficult." And my team loves to hear that. It's really difficult, and all the attorneys said they can't help. And my key player will step up, and Janine, her name is, she'll step up and say, "I'll take it." And she fixes stuff for people. So not only do we help people, but I will say that we get psychic income, I call it.
Oh, that is that trademarked? That sounds great.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's how we apply for, we put on in our job descriptions for people when we're looking for somebody. You know, to be an advisor can be, after you do it for a long time, maybe it becomes a little rote.
Mhm.
But when you start to have people who you're helping coming and going, we don't know what we would do without you.
How has it changed you? I mean, over the years, I mean, you like you just said in that exact example of, it's starting to things are moving along, things may not. I mean, I'm sure you learn something new every single day. So how have the experiences with these new people that come aboard, how has it changed you in the last 20 years?
I think it's made me feel more grateful, to be able to help families and to be able to teach advisors how their skill, it's not for everybody.
Mhm.
But when I find an advisor who either has a family member, it's most of the time the kind of people who want to do it, or they've worked in the disability world and now they want to come into our world. Um, the school systems, it's interesting because the federal government tells the state they're supposed to do certain things in the schools for the parents and for the children. And the state tells the schools they're supposed to do it, but the schools have no money. So you got a lot of people working in the school systems who are responsible for getting those parents trained, and they can't. So they're frustrated, but they can come to us and work for us and help more people than they could working in the school system. So to watch people come and say, I mean, I would say most of our staff, one in particular, she says, "I'm so happy I'm here. I get to make a difference in lives every single day." And is a little more, are there days where you're like, oh, this is really hard?
Sure.
It's a little different than just financial planning. It's a little different than, you know, helping with portfolios or selling insurance. It's got this other emotional component to it. So that's the downside and the upside. Because you go home some days and you're like, I couldn't help those people. I couldn't figure out a solution. And, we've had stories where there was a man who he was helping his daughter and she had a lot of mental illness. And he says, "No, I want to pay you." And he paid us a little bit every month. And we helped him get his services to his daughter. And you do all that. And then one day you get the call that she left their house in the middle of the night and she froze to death in the yard. Those are hard. When you do everything for people you can, and mental illness is tough. Or somebody has a developmental disability that, it gets beyond what people can all do for them. So there's the downsides of working here, but that's rare.
Mhm.
And the parents still come back to you and thank you for giving a life to that person. Now, on the other flip side, people have been with us for a while and we've done all the financial work and we've helped them find a place for their child to live, and we've found a place for their child to work, and we've found a place for their child to play. And you think about play and think, what does that mean? So there was a couple we've been working with for a long time, and they come in and they said, "We don't need to talk about the financial stuff. Let's talk about other stuff," right?
Mhm.
Well, we got to talk about that first. And then they'll tell us that everything is great for their child, but they lost one of their key programs that they loved, and it was virtual bingo, right? She had virtual bingo that was provided in a program, but the program couldn't fund the virtual bingo anymore, so they stopped it. She was on this bingo program with all these other disabled people, and that was their social life. She said, I said, "Oh, well, maybe we should think about doing that. Virtual bingo, how can that be?" But it's all these little things that the clients care about. You can put your portfolio together and you do all that. You do all the basic stuff. But it's all this other stuff where you just hear a little thing that maybe you can add value.
Yeah, and I mean, they're people. I mean, they want a community. That's,
Yeah, it's exactly right.
they want
Exactly
that
right.
community. I mean, that's a great idea. I mean, I know people that we love bingo virtually anyways.
That's right. And one of the things that we like, everybody likes. And so when you're putting some things like that in, like we always say we have a big conference center here. Now we can do an event, we could do a popcorn night and have people have their kids come and watch a movie and eat some popcorn and get to know somebody else. And the parents get to know each other. And who knows what'll happen from that.
Hmm.
Because it's the biggest thing that is happening probably now, besides the Medicaid problems that are happening in our country and things being taken away, is people who had disabilities. There's disabilities that 30 years ago, when I talked at a conference for SMA, nobody lived past 2.
Hmm.
Now, SMA, they're asking me that they're an adult with SMA, and they want to know how to talk to their employer about their disability. So research and medications are having people live longer. So when you look at certain disabilities, the parents never planned because their child wasn't supposed to live.
Mm.
And now they're growing up. And how the parents are like, oh my gosh, we need to do something, right?
That and also isolation. So I mean, like you've already said at the beginning of the call, I mean, if you got parents, grandparents that have somebody in their family downward, and they start to go through these experiences and they feel that the best thing for their child is to just keep them isolated, not necessarily just more so they're not taught anything. It's hard to get a community when you're by yourself.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you take away the bingo or you take away something else. I mean, parents need to be associated with other parents that they can relate to.
Right. The other parents give them support and gives the child access. I will tell you that sometimes when you get into the family offices in the wealthy communities, sometimes people think that money will solve the problems, but money doesn't always solve the problems because you can't get access to programs without certain Medicaid capabilities. So we worked with a family, and I was at a conference, and there's a couple women came up to me and said, we belong to a family of great wealth. Our husbands are the spouses of that. Our spouses are members of that family. And they have a sister who has a disability, but she's living by herself in a condo because they can afford to do that. Got a caregiver. That's all she does. And they had experimented to have her go out and work at a job, but she had a bad experience. She's abused in some way. So they keep her locked up with cameras on her in a condo. But the wives of the players came to me and said, it just doesn't feel right because she's so secluded. Can you help? So I went to the family and they had me interview all the family members. There were 17 people. And they all said, we want to keep her safe. We want to keep her safe. I said, well, what does she want? So it's not just the family, it's what that person wants. So I talked to her and they said, she'll never talk to you. I spent hours with her talking about what she wanted. It was one of the most fun cases I ever worked on because, and I got to talk to her about that she loved dogs. Great. She loves dogs. I have a charity that I work with that we train puppies and give them away to children with autism. I said, you want to go there and visit it with me? So she was in Ohio. I took her to Wisconsin, had her visit this facility. She was like, her eyes lit up. I have 3 Goldens. I had me come to my house and see the Goldens. Her eyes were lighting up. I said, okay, there's something for this person who's now locked up in a condo and safe. She was safe. That's what the parents wanted, right? We ended up getting her into a special needs college with a certificate in horticulture. She's now living in Illinois in a program, in a house with friends. She has a job at a nursery. She gets to work and she doesn't want to go back home. She has a whole life. So sometimes you get those cases where it really feels impossible to fix. It's not impossible. And we've had a couple big cases like that through the years where the whole family has disabilities and you're throwing in and trying to help with all the kids. And you just take one at a time and you eke away at it. And the parents in the end are really happy that their child has a life, but they don't know how to get there. You got to be brave to let your child take risks. Any of us do. When a child to go out and live on their own, you're like, oh my gosh, they really should. Why don't we keep them home? But you got a child with a disability, it's our natural instinct to want to keep them home. And it's our natural instinct to want the other kids to take care of them when they get older. But it's probably not the right answer. Sometimes it might be.
Are you tired of seeing your clients' renewal rates going down? Maybe your customer started out with a 5% cap, and over the years, it has been cut down to 2%. Sound familiar? Lock in guaranteed rates on Prosperity Life Group's newest FIA, Path Pro Series, an A-excellent company now with a 16% premium bonus with no fee. PLG's Path Pro Series has you covered. You can find Prosperity's perfect renewal rate scorecard and more at www.prosperitylifearc.com. That's prosperitylifearc.com. Oh, I struggle. I got 3 kids and I don't like risk. But at the same time,
Right.
I know what you mean.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and that's where, and your team though, and it's refreshing, I would say, for those that may be listening and may have people that are clients or friends or family members themselves that go through the same things you've already talked about. I mean, your team is really doing some amazing work, and you're really making an impact and making a difference. I was on your website this week, and I wrote this one down. This is incredible. So I looked at your testimonials on your website, and someone put, quote, "This note is to let you know that my mom passed away. She was ready to leave us and she had no fear. While you worked for us and for mom, you were so kind. I'm sending along our picture so you will always remember that you do help people, real people. Behind the voices on the phone are folks just like my mom and I who need your help and guidance. I want you to know that you make a difference in our lives."
Mm.
I mean, how many of those do you probably hear from, but I mean, does it ever change?
People are grateful. People are really grateful to have access to service and to get help. And the hard part in our field is that there aren't enough people to help us help them,
Hmm.
right? And the average advisor might think they can do this because it feels good, but it's all this technical stuff you have to know too, not goof up. And so it's that combination of making sure you know the rules and making sure you know the capabilities. And so it's easy to want to help, but it's years and years of training and educating. But there's nothing like, I mean, people come to you saying, "Oh, my portfolio is doing so great." That's nice. It's really nice to get those letters like that where you made a difference. That's why we're here. I mean, I think advisors in general want to get in the business to help.
And they do, and I mean, especially the ones that listen, how do they even get started? Like, how do they start the conversation with those clients that maybe they've turned away or just they shrug their shoulders saying, "Can't help you." Like, what are some conversation starters for them?
I would say, first of all, if they ask them that question, if they kind of know that they might, first of all, every client you don't know because they don't think of you as their psychologist or psychiatrist or person who's going to listen to their story, right? So I would say every client ought to be asked once a year, is there anyone in your family who depends on you financially or emotionally? If you look up, down, and around, every advisor should ask that question once a year at your annual review. Why? Because right now, everything might be just fine. A year from now, a spouse could have been diagnosed with MS or Parkinson's. A grandchild could have had an accident. A child could be born. Things happen, right? So, and once you know that, then you just ask them, how can I help? How can I help? We have lots of ways they can get to our website. Just give them some information. Our free parent university, it's a class once a month. It's free. Send them to that and link them to it. Or send them our information and we're happy to talk to them. And some percentage of people want our help. Some percentage of people just want to be on the site and start. But I will tell you, once we talk to someone, they may say, "No, I'm not, I don't need help right now." But we constantly get calls from people saying, "I talked to you 8 years ago. I'm ready for help." right? And so you just make yourself available to people and they know that you exist. And once they know you exist, at some point they'll get to the point where they need it. So an advisor has somebody. Now, if they really want to do it, advisor really wants to do it. It's years of training, but there's ways that they could work with us
Hmm.
and work with their clients or come into our firm in some way and get trained over time. But you're starting from scratch and learning things.
And so I did see something, which we'll talk about here in a little bit too. So you have an 8-step process, something like that. So what exactly goes into that, and what's like the time frame?
First of all, when you first have this child come into your life or a person come into your life, it's so confusing. And somebody comes to you and says, well, you need to get legal work and it has to be different. And oh yeah, you have to get that money out of the child's name, or you have to apply for SSI or Medicaid. You got to do all these things. So we put a process around it so that people feel success. And of the 8 steps, we say, okay, which comes first, which comes second. And then we number them, but you never always, number 1 is always first and number 8 is always last, but all the rest happen because you need them based upon certain times. So the first thing we always do is say, help us, and we call it take a candid look. Let's first be really honest with where we stand at this point. Let's, tell our stories to each other and let's just be really candid. Out of that, number 1 step is we identify 2 things. What's the best thing that could happen and what's your biggest fear? And that'll always be our benchmark for that family. Best thing that could happen and their biggest fear. And usually I could tell you if we were playing Family Feud, the best thing that'll happen will be, I want my family member to be safe and happy. That's what they want. We know that it takes a lot of work to be safe and happy, but their biggest fear is abuse. They're always afraid that this person who has needs is abuse. And so our measuring stick for all the other steps is this motion we're taking with whatever it is this going to help that person be safe and happy? And are we going to avoid abuse? So then we go through other processes, defining their life and what does their life look like and creating a plan for that person's life. So we're creating a plan for the child, and then we're creating a plan for the parents, and then we're marrying them together. So we're building this plan together to say, mom and dad have to look like this, child's going to look like this, where they're going to live, where they're going to work, where they're going to play. Every year we look at that. Then we next get to the attorneys, because legal work is really important to get the documentation right. And then we make sure we get all the government benefits that are possible. There's lots of them. But we position the child through legal work and everything else to get their work done. After that, we're looking at writing a book about the child. We call it My Special Life. So why is that so important? If something were to happen to me, I know everything there is to know about my son. And I know what makes him wish that he wasn't living. I know what makes him scared, but I also know what makes him get out of that funk, right? So if something happens to me and I say, Jeremy, I'm assigning my son to live with you. And you're like, oh, well, you left lots of money in a trust for him, but you didn't tell me anything about what to say when he wants to end his life. You didn't tell me that.
Hmm.
And so you need the people I'm leaving behind who are going to take care of this person. They need detail. I have a woman who became in charge of her brother when her parents passed away. And she came into me and she said, I'm so mad at my parents. Said they both passed away. She said, I'm in charge of my brother. And I says, well, you got the trust, you got money. He's living in a residential program. He's doing really great. Why are you mad at your parents? My mom didn't leave me any instructions of where to buy his pants. She says, I'm looking everywhere. I've been on Amazon. I've been at the stores. He's short. He's stocky. He has autism. He can't have anything scratchy. They got to have Velcro. I've looked everywhere. All she had to do is say, I bought him an XYZ. So this book we have them write is all the minutia. Because if somebody's going to step into your shoes, you got to give them them. So we build a team. We call it our dream team with that book. We say, if you're going to give somebody the job of taking care of that person, you got to give them a financial person. You got to give them a care person. You got to give them know who the doctors are. You got to know who the programs for fun are. You got to know all that stuff, right? And then Then now we've done all that. Now we get to the funding. How much is needed to the trust? How much is needed for retirement? And then as we get through all those pieces, we start over. Because every year we have to identify each of those things. And so that's what gives the people the confidence that they're 90 years old, and I have peace of mind that everything is done.
That's a process.
But we take each of those steps every year and we inspect them. We say, are we okay in this one? Yep. Legal documents need to be changed. Legal documents looked a certain way until 2020 when the Secure Act passed.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Secure Act passed, it said that money coming in from a retirement account is taxed differently, right? But not for people with disabilities. So we used to think, don't leave the retirement money to the disabled person. But now we should leave it to them because they can stretch it.
Interesting.
And so that one Secure Act changed the way we look at things. So when people came in, we started saying, well, maybe the life insurance should now go to the other kids because it goes tax-free in some cases. And the retirement accounts should go to where they're going to get stretched. So we started flipping our advice based upon one law. So you say, well, didn't you finish everything? You did all 8 steps. Yeah, they're going to change. So our job is to know all that little minutia and tweak things as we go.
Unlock new accumulation opportunities with EclipseMark fixed index annuities issued by Standard Insurance Company and available exclusively through Legacy Marketing Group. Offer up to 15% annual penalty-free withdrawals after year 1, plus many rates that are guaranteed not to drop for up to 10 years, a key advantage in today's uncertain rate environment. And for you, earn competitive upfront or trailing commissions. Learn more. Visit www.legacynet.com. EclipseMark is a product of Standard Insurance Company of Portland, Oregon. Licensed in all states except New York. Features and availability may vary by state. This message is for licensed insurance producers only, not for consumers. Legacy Marketing Group is an independent agency not affiliated with Standard Insurance Company.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially as more and more advisors, especially those listening to this, they come across these scenarios and they're like, you know what, I think this could be something that's beneficial. So real quick, talk about your journey. So you're part of Simplicity though. So I'm sure what started that, you're an entrepreneur at heart, still an entrepreneur. So what started you on the journey of wanting to join an organization?
So first of all, I've never been an entrepreneur. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I love numbers. And so it was really interesting when my sister passed away. My mom, I asked her to write stories about my sister. She never did it. Until finally, when my mom got dementia, I was reading and I found in this drawer over 1,100 letters that my mother had written to me. So I'm reading them and they're really emotional. And one of them, my mother said to me, remember the day that you wanted to go out and play. And we didn't let you because you promised you would crawl with Marcia every day for an hour. It was a program that she was in. She had to crawl in order to develop her brain. And so we said, no, you can't go out and play. She says, you were so mad at me. She says, but I'm sorry because we kept you from being a kid. You had to always take care of your sister. She says, so I'm sorry I did that. But the next day's letter that I read that she had written to me, she said, you know what I wrote yesterday? I'm not sorry at all. Because what you did after I told you that you couldn't go out and play, you were so mad at me. The next day you had me go to the store with you and we bought pink paper. And on that paper, you write a whole bunch of them. You said crawling club, join the club. And you passed that out to the neighborhood and you never had to crawl again because you had so many people sign up for the crawling club that you could always play when you wanted to because you had a whole neighborhood signed up to crawl with your sister. So I'm not sorry because I made you an entrepreneur. That was her letter to me when she was many years older. So I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I always thought of myself as just someone who helped people. But as it started to be a business and I started thinking about, okay, you can't help number 2 unless you make money at number 1. It started to become a business and I was like, okay, I guess I am doing this. So we were just doing this for many years. And clients started to say to me, well, what's going to happen if something happens to you? They started to ask me that. They've known it for 30 years. And I kept thinking, okay, I'm looking, and I kept trying to find the right answer. So I just kept working and hiring people, hiring staff. So we were at 8 people in our team. And then in one day, I get this phone call, and his name was Bruce. And he goes, I got your name from somebody, and I'd like to hear more about what you do. I was like, okay, so I'm coming to Chicago. What day could we meet? So he shows up here in my office, and he goes, tell me about you. And I said, well, I don't know anything about you. Tell me who you are. So he tells me his story. And so he's now tell me yours. So I told him my story. While I'm telling him my story, he was pretty emotional about it. And I was like, okay, I don't know enough about yours. Well, ends up in his family there, I have some disability stories in his life. So he got it. He got immediately what we were doing. And he said to me, I don't know if it's going to be with the company I'm with or not, but I'm going to help you.
Mhm.
It was like September 20th, 2022. I remember the date. And when we talked after that, and in June 1 of 2024, I became a partner. Because the interesting thing I thought was he had me come out and talk at a partner meeting.
Oh, I was there.
And people
Yeah.
came up to me, and everybody was showing me pictures of their kids. And this is, this grandchild. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the right place. I just knew that I was in the right place. And since then, it has been the best thing that ever could have happened to us, because we're getting, we're now at 17 people on our team. But reality is that's just our local team. We're now talking about opening the office in Summit. We're talking about an office in Boston. And people are coming to us wanting to do this. So now we're creating I had a training program. We're just building it so that we can train advisors and social workers to be in cities and doing this with us. We are partnering. So not only are we working with the families, but we hired a national partnership coordinator. So now we're forming a partnership with disability groups. And those groups that's saying, well, our families, we have 8,000 families, they need help. We're partnering with them. And so we're going into the not-for-profits that serve these families who don't know how to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're partnering with them to provide services and advice. And now we're going into companies. Companies, if your child has a disability, they can work. It's part of what we do. We help them figure out what could they do. There are companies that hire people with disabilities, but they don't quite know how to interview them, or they don't know how to evaluate them, or they not know how to pay them. So we're starting to be looking about how do we help these companies, and they want our help.
Wow.
And then eventually, how to become a benefit to their employees. So company needs help, but the employees in those companies need help. Because if you have a great job at a company, and you get the phone call that your child is having a meltdown at school, you gotta leave. Or if your mom has dementia and she's walking down the train tracks, you better come and get her. You gotta leave. So how do we help employees within companies? Because the need to be a caregiver is so great these days. It's getting, we know from the long-term care industry, the number of caregivers we're going to need in this country.
Mm-hmm.
How do we start to fit into that role as well and help companies understand to help their employees? Yeah. So we're expanding the way we can reach more families. And it's the best thing that could ever happen, right? I'm always saying I was blessed the day Bruce walked into my office, because our world, all the things that I wanted to do, we're starting to do.
I love it. And that's how, I remember back at the meeting, hearing you from stage, and just like you said earlier, you asked the question to the room, and I think over 90% of the room raised their hand.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was like, there you were speaking. I was like, wow. Then you were gone. I was like, what happened to her? But there she is. She's back with vengeance now. No, we're looking forward to, continuing to learn more about your story. For those that want to learn more about the programs, all the things, especially in the near future, as you continue to build out Protect Tomorrows and everything else you're going to do, where do they go to find information on your team?
They can go to protectedtomorrows.com. If they really want specific information for themselves or for a client, on our website, there's a place that there's a QR code where they can give us information about their client. If they want to connect us. And if they want to talk to me, they can contact me directly on the website and I'll reach out to them. I'm doing more presentations. I was at the AST class last week, and we did a couple of life summits. We're going to be participating in the life summits too,
Oh,
because
great.
advisors need to learn about. I've done presentations about what we're doing, and now I'm starting to think about I really need to give very specifics as to when you got a family that looks like this, or this, we can help quickly. These are ones that are more difficult, but just get people information.
And that's the thing. It's 70 million people. So, my goodness.
When you think about the number of children in our school systems in this country, 15% of them have some kind of special needs service given to them. That's a lot.
Yes.
And so everybody, we don't know what is causing that increase in the diagnoses that are happening, but I suspect a lot of it existed already. They just didn't name it or test it. But I do know that a family member is looking for help. Families are looking for help. They just don't know where to look.
Looking for help, looking for a community. So that's bottom line.
Yeah.
And I know as we're wrapping up here, amazing, time flies. Amazing conversation. As we wrap up, anything, final words of wisdom for the audience?
Just ask for help. Ask for the family, ask for yourself. We're happy to, just listen. We're great listeners, and we can point people to the right place. Or if somebody wants to do this, reach out, because we're looking to expand around the country. Sometimes you might not want to do it yourself, but you might know somebody who's a special ed teacher or somebody like that who's looking to make a difference too. But this is the best way to take our talent and just exponentially make a difference. It's so fun. and you feel blessed every day. Sometimes somebody will come in the office and they're like, oh man, this happened. This is my dog is sick. And I'm like, okay, let's put everything in perspective.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your
You're welcome.
unbelievable time. I'm looking forward to seeing many speeches probably next year at the Life ADC or the Life Summits. And I'm sure Bruce will have you traveling.
Yeah. But we'll be at the partner meeting, because I have somebody who's CEO of one of the disability groups we're working with. She's going to be at the meeting with me. So.
Oh, perfect. Love that.
Yeah. It'll be fun. She'll be able to tell you the story because she's got a child, and she's going to talk firsthand about it.
Awesome. We'll appreciate it, Mary Anne. And also thank you so much to the listener for tuning into this week's episode. Feel free to subscribe on your favorite listening device to the Advisor Mentorship Podcast. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Jeremy Hauser AMP. And as you share this episode to a friend and a colleague, remember, in a world full of betas, be an alpha.